Many people now have heard that Zuffa Boxing, in conjunction with Dana White and Turkey Al Sheikh, are going to be signing up fighters. Obviously, Turkey Al Sheikh has done a great deal of good for boxing, but I have heard about the contractual terms that boxers are going to sign if they're involved with Zuffa Boxing, and they're absolutely shocking. They are something that I would consider absolutely unconscionable and unbelievable, and potentially, as far as I'm concerned, career ending for the fighters. Now, Zuffa Boxing is trying to create their own system, actually patterning it on the UFC. So they will be signing up fighters who will be fighting other people, fighting each other, but they will have their own belt. That's not the worst part. The worst part are the actual provisions in the clauses of the agreements that a fighter must sign in order to be part of the Zuffa boxing family. So, number one, they are going to be having to use equipment provided by Zuffa. So that will probably be gloves, shorts, etc. Why is that important? It's important because sometimes fighters may get paid to wear certain things or to do certain things. If they can't do that, that takes away a lot of earning potential as far as sponsorships are concerned. So they can only wear the equipment that's provided by Zuffa, as well as pre-bout and post-bout events. So even at the post-fight conference, they have to wear Zuffa provided merchandise with logos, name brands, etc. That's not good. That is definitely not good, because obviously the more freedom that a fighter has, the better, so that they can increase their earning potential in what is probably the most brutal sport on the planet. Some of the other conditions of the contract state, for example, that the fighter has to be offered three fights, three fights during a contractual term year. So for every year, they'll be offered three fights in order for the contract to be valid. If they are sick, if they're offered the fight and they don't want to fight and they turn it down, they are still considered to have been offered that fight. So it means, for example, let's say you have a fighter who's a light heavyweight, cruiserweight, and then they're offered to fight Jai Opetaya, who nobody wants to fight, and then after that maybe David Benavidez. Of course, a novice fighter will turn that down. If Zuffa Boxing offers our fighter those kind of fights and they turn it down, they can hold them in contract for probably another year, because Zuffa Boxing would be considered as having fulfilled their conditions to offer three fights a year if they offer three fights like that. So it's basically a very onerous and seemingly one-sided agreement. And the contract also gives Zuffa the sole right, and they have the sole discretion to exploit the image rights of the fighter in video games. So with EA Sports or any other video game producer, Zuffa is going to be able to use those rights in the video game, and only Zuffa, nobody else. Another thing is that a lot of times you get boxers and they will effectively try to climb up the rankings, and also might also fight a YouTuber like Anthony Joshua did. With these Zuffa contracts, you are completely tied into Zuffa. So you can't take any other fights in any other combat sport, not MMA, not Misfits, etc. You'll be tied to Zuffa. So whatever they want you to do, whoever they want you to fight, you have to fight, and you can't do anything else. Another thing is if you are to fight and you get injured, you're sick, you break your leg, etc., that will not excuse your obligation to uh, perform the three fight obligation. So the, what that means is that Zuffa will still be classed as having offered you fights in, um, I guess you could call it, satisfaction of their contractual conditions. Interestingly, the contract also forces fighters to go out of California if they want to train. They're not allowed to train inside California. Why is that? Because California has a lot of protections for fighters. So they want you to be out of a state whereby there'll be protections, legal protections, obligations placed on promoters so that they can engage in this chicanery. And apparently, they are also precluded from seeking any consequential, incidental, or punitive damages from Zuffa, nor can they seek an injunction or equitable relief. This is a completely ridiculous clause. So it means that basically you are almost certainly prevented by the wording of that clause from being able to go to court and seek redress if you have any disagreement or there's any issue with the contractual terms as far as the fighter or their representatives are concerned. I don't think any court is going to actually hold that kind of clause up. It is, like I said again, it's very one-sided. It may not even be enforceable in a lot of jurisdictions. So I don't know what governing clause. The governing clause is effectively the law that applies because that could be a whole host of different laws, different states, etc. It could even be international law. It might even be an English law clause. But as far as most jurisdictions, you have to have somewhat of a fair contract, not that you sign a contract and then you give all of your rights away. So it'll be interesting to see if they get sued. But, this is not surprising to me at all, especially when you look at the way that the UFC is set up and a lot of fighters that have complained about being completely disenfranchised in the UFC. This should not surprise anyone.